I'm Denny, and this is Pretty Pains. If you know me, you know I love all things beauty, but what you may not know is how much I love business, especially the business of beauty. After testing thousands of products over the years, meeting the most amazing founders, and working with incredible brands, I knew it was time to take a deeper dive into the makings of the brand and the people behind them. On this podcast, I'm having conversations with founders, innovators, industry shakers. We're talking startup, business, innovation, beauty, trends, and so much more. It's a must listen for beauty lovers, aspiring entrepreneurs, and anyone that's passionate about the art and business of beauty. It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be good. Like, for real, look. In this industry, I get to meet a lot of amazing people, but some make a lasting impression on you. Today's guest is one that I can only describe as a ray of sunshine. She, along with her husband, has built one of the most recognizable beauty brands on the market today, and I'm so excited to introduce the co-founder of Dr PAWPAW, Pauline Paterson. Welcome to the Pretty Face podcast, Pauline.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Denny. God, what an introduction. I feel flattered. Thank you.
So thank you so much for coming. And obviously you are a ray of sunshine. You're literally the most colourful person I've ever come across. You're always like bright colours. I need to take a page out of your book. Today I am wearing a bright colour, so...
Definitely. I'm loving that pink on you. It looks gorgeous on you.
Thank you so much. So I really want to have this conversation to dive a little bit into yourself, building Dr PAWPAW to where it is today. But before we get into sort of the depths of Dr PAWPAW, I want to start with you, Pauline. I want to know a little bit about you. Well, who is Pauline? And who was Pauline before Dr PAWPAW? What were you doing?
Yeah, there's kind of like the life almost like pre-Dr PAWPAW and after Dr PAWPAW, yeah. But before Dr PAWPAW, I was a hairdresser. And I absolutely loved being a hairdresser as well because I specialised in colour.
Yeah.
So I was so used to matching hair color to people's eye color, skin tone, the way they dressed, if they're a bit more classic or if they're a bit more adventurous. I loved that whole consultation process. And that's actually what got me over here to London was because in my younger years, I won a colouring award in Australia. And because I went through the different stages and then I won the Australian title, the prize was a trip to London. Yeah, so I came over to London and I was only meant to be here for 4 weeks and I've been here for over 20 years, longer than what I grew up in Australia with. So, yeah, that's how.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
So hairdresser. I didn't realize that you was even a hairdresser before that. So how did you even get to the point where you started a skincare beauty brand, really? Like, I thought maybe you'd go into like a trichologist or something if you wanted to.
So what happened was the last part of my career, I wasn't working in a salon. I was actually working for the company Weller Professionals, in particular when Procter and Gamble, P&G brought us out. So then I started to see a whole different side of the industry. Definitely more of a branding sort of corporate side. And I was fortunate enough to be chosen to be on their global testing team, which meant then that anytime they brought out a hairbrush, a hair color, a shampoo, I was asked to test it on different hair types, on different, people, situations, and then give my feedback. And my feedback was actually listened to, and then we'd develop on that, or we'd, keep the good bits, change the bad bits, etc. So I really then learned how to sort of analyze a product and what I liked about certain things and what I didn't like about certain things. So it was then when my daughter got eczema as a baby and we were looking for a natural alternative to the steroid creams that the doctors had recommended, that I discovered the power of the pawpaw fruit. And I know I'm probably answering a couple of questions in one here, but really it was the need of not being able to get that product over here. I was like, well, actually, why don't I do this? And it was really at a crossroads of my career as well, is because I'd had Jasmine. I was a first time mum. I tried to go back to work full time, working in central London when I was living out of central London, and just the juggle of that especially because Johnny was customer facing at that point as well. So we couldn't just, walk away from our computers and go and pick her up at 6 o'clock. Sometimes we'd be in meetings. And we were dropping her off at 7 a.m. in the morning and then racing to pick her up at 6 p.m. at night. And we're like, is this really why we became parents? So we were looking for something else to do so that I could at least go part-time, because I loved my hairdressing career. I didn't want to change it, but I needed the flexibility to be able to go part-time. So it's that culmination of things.
Yeah, I mean, but did you think the part-time will turn into this huge, massive beauty brand? I think, were you hoping for something small that you could do on the side, and then all of a sudden you have this amazing brand, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. We started off with the one product, the one original balm, and I thought that was just going to be like my part-time hobby. But yes, because of the success of that, it actually allowed me the freedom to actually have to give up my day job to be able to work on it full time.
Yeah, well, I guess I want to touch on even what you just said in terms of innovation. So when it comes to launching a beauty product, you really want to do something that's innovative, because it's such a crowded market, right? So you want to find a niche in the market that you can sort of step into. So obviously yours was, you needed to cure your daughter's eczema. So just in regards to finding the right product, so you said the pawpaw fruit, was that sort of the core product that you wanted in the original balm, or was there like other products that you wanted to play around with?
Definitely the pawpaw fruit was the main focus, for sure, because that was the key ingredient. But then I guess working with the pawpaw fruit and then doing more investigation to it, like learning the fact that the pawpaw fruit is also an anti-inflammatory, and so that's why it's so good on eczema or redness or soreness, because actually soothes it and heals it. Then that led me into, okay, well, what other ingredient does that to help? And that's when I'm thinking, right, it's got to have aloe vera in it as well. And then we're looking again more at sort of like the moisturizing side of it as well. And because we definitely wanted to keep to being an oil base, because oils sink deeper into the skin and they're not just topical like water-based ones. So, the healing process and the nourishment is actually longer lasting than an instant fix. And looking at the nourishing side, then that's what kind of lent us to olive oil as well, because I think at the time that we were launching, it was the argan oil crave was massive. Everybody was using argan oil. So we're like, okay, we don't want to do that. And then the other thing was almond oil. And so the benefits of almond oil are amazing and it smells amazing. But then again, we were trying to be totally inclusive. So we're like, actually, if somebody's got a nut allergy, yes, we can't say it's safe to use, but we can't say it's not safe to use either. And we're not going to get clinical trials to say it is or it isn't, because that does cost a lot. So we're like, just leave it out. If there's ever a question mark around it, then there are other ingredients. So and then we knew we didn't want to use beeswax, because again, all our other competitors were doing that. So it was definitely just investigating what's going to complement the pawpaw fruit and what are we trying to do differently. And then that's what gave us what we call our trio of hero ingredients, which is aloe vera, pawpaw, and olive oil. And that runs throughout everything now, except in the skincare.
Yeah. So just in terms of regulation and clinical trials, before a product goes to the mass market, before it launches, how many sort of people should you have trialed it on, or did you trial it on before that initial, okay, is ready for it to go out to everybody now?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a difference between a clinical trial and a consumer trial. So a consumer trial is when you just give it to people to find out if they like it, if they think it's hydrating and things like that. And so we did that with friends and family at the time as well. And I think especially because a lot of our friends and family had tried the same Australian pawpaw balms that I used to sort of bring over for them. So I knew they had something to compare it to as well. And again, sort of being in the hairdressing industry, we were as much beauty junkies as we were hair junkies. So we were always trying the newest lip balm or lip gloss or whatever. So I really wanted my friends and family, but I didn't tell them it was me. It was in a little white thing, and it was like,
Okay, that's good. That's good.
yeah, I was like, because I didn't want any bias from it. I didn't know if my friends would tell me the truth.
It was like, it's good, and you're like, is it really?
Yeah. So when they found out, they were like, "Oh my god, we didn't even think about that." But yeah, so we did consumer testing for it. Then clinical trials is when they actually have to take a patch of skin and then sort of keep testing it on it. But because we used a contract manufacturer, so I wasn't mixing it in my kitchen, which I think is amazing. The people that do that, I think, is amazing. But I always knew I wanted to work with a contract manufacturer, with a supplier, because I knew they would have the infrastructure around what I didn't know. So then they did all of like the safety testing, making sure, I mean, again, they're only going to put ingredients in there that are safe to use and that are legal to use and that are okay, especially to use on your mouth, because you are going to ingest it. So it's almost as safe as food grade. Making a lip product definitely is. So we had to take all of that into consideration. So I let them deal with the legislation and making sure it was legal and safe to be sold, not just here in the UK as well. We already had our eye on Europe and America. So they made sure that it was compliant with all of those territories. And then we kind of did, our own consumer trials.
Yeah, what's the time frame in that period where you're trialing things out before it goes to market? Is it because you hear some brands are like, oh, we worked on something for a year, some we worked on it for 4 years. So what was sort of the period that you was working on it? How long did it take for you to actually launch?
I think from the idea, it probably took us, I think, about a year to bring it to market. But I would say that's because we were quite happy with the first few submissions. Skincare for me took me 2 years to develop it because there are a couple of products in there that I wanted to do that I knew hadn't been done before, which is why I wanted to do it. Especially when our manufacturer says nobody's ever asked for that, and I'm like,
That's why I
what? So then that can take longer, because it depends. If you create a brief and you get the submission and you absolutely love it, then it's done in the first one, and then it takes a minimum of 3 months really to get the testing, compatibility, stability, and all of those testing done to make sure that it's safe, and it's safe in the packaging you've chosen as well. So that needs a minimum of 3 months up to 6 months. So that's why we were able to sort of do it really in a year, because again, we had to order the plastics from scratch, the packaging from scratch, design it all. So that's why it took a year. Now we can do a product a lot quicker. Because we've already got all of that decided. But it depends how many times you go back saying, no, I don't like this about it, I want to change that about it, I don't like this. It depends how many submissions you have, depends really on how long it takes. But the quickest you could do it in is 6 months.
So you launched first in 2013 and it was in Harvey Nichols, is that correct?
Yes.
God, that is such a big company to launch your product in. Like, were there any fears sort of around launching in Harvey Nichols or even getting the product in Harvey Nichols in the first place? What was that process like?
Yeah, so back in 2013 as well, sort of the internet and the influencers were just starting. Also because, again, at the time, we just had a £6 product. We knew we couldn't just start our own website and do it that. We knew we had to sell B2B. So to be honest, we sent that product out to everybody, and anybody. Boots, Superdrug, pharmacists, Topshop at the time, loads of different businesses. And actually Harvey Nichols was the first one who came back and contacted us, and the buyer said, yes, we want it, because again, she'd traveled around and she's like, we've been trying for years to try and bring an Australian pawpaw product over here, but they just don't want to sell. And we're like, well, that's the same as what happened to us. So they were already on it. I think also at the time, Holly Willoughby was on ITV, and she'd said that one of her favorite products, but you just can't get over here, is a pawpaw balm. And she actually called it like a pawpaw balm. We're like, oh my God, that's literally what we're launching. So a lot of the buyers had already heard of this concept,
Mm.
more so say than what the general public
Mm.
had. So that's why we thought, right, we need to get this in there. The other thing we got in quite quickly as well was we got into makeup artist emporiums in Covent Garden. I think it was called Face at the time, where all the makeup artists used to go to buy their products. And again, we got in there fairly quickly because, again, makeup artists travel around a lot. They always want something multi-purpose in their kits because they don't want to have 5 different products, carrying 5 different products around. If they can have the one product that does all that, then it's perfect, you know.
Yeah.
And again, our product just ticked so many boxes for them, you know, flavor free, fragrance free, it's
Yeah.
suitable for skin types, whatever they're doing, they can use it on their lips, face, you know. It really was a makeup artist's perfect product. So it was those two places really that believed in us first. So we didn't necessarily go out and target Harvey Nichols, meaning we want Harvey Nichols, we're just going to send it to you.
Yeah.
We sent it to everybody, but they were the first ones who saw our potential.
Well, that's good. It's amazing anyways. And I think Dr. PAWPAW is quite a notable brand just in terms of the packaging. Like, you just see it and you just know it's Dr. PAWPAW. So I just want to touch a little bit on branding and packaging. How important was it for you to sort of produce a packaging that was not only noticeable on the shelf, but also functional? Because sometimes you have like amazing products, but the product, like, you know, it's like a squishy tube or something and it doesn't work properly, or you know, the lid is a bit dysfunctional. So how important was it for you to have a product that was not only eye-catching but also functional?
Yeah, I think with that, it really did sort of come down to cost, if I'm completely honest with you, because there is some amazing fancy packaging out there, but it costs a lot. And our structure, our whole ethos was, if we're bringing this product to market, we really want it to be accessible to everybody. We don't want to be a premium price point that, say, for example, only people who shop at Harvey Nichols, you know, could afford. We always had our eye on being accessible to everybody. So that definitely played a part in our ingredients, but also in our packaging as well. Also, I think at the time there were lots of pots going around that people were putting their finger in to put their lip balm in. And again, you know, that comes with its own sort of complications, or people either love it or hate it, really. If you've got nails, you know, you probably hate it. You know, if you're constantly sort of digging around in there, you know, it does get a little bit messy.
Yeah, or unhygienic sometimes, isn't it? Sometimes.
Yes, unhygienic, yeah. And so we knew we wanted to do a tube. We knew we wanted it to stand up, you know, sort of, so to speak, and to stand out as well, because again, we didn't want to put it into any like secondary packaging. So, you know, anything that was going to have like a plastic over the top or anything like that. So yeah, we really did think a lot about it, but ultimately cost was what helped us decide, because we really wanted to be accessible to everybody.
So when you launched, obviously you mentioned that social media influencer marketing wasn't really big at the time. So how did you manage to get, so with the exception of Harvey Nichols, how did you sort of reach people to even find out about the balm? So was it like Facebook ads or, you know, Instagram ads, or did you hire a PR company to sort of put out press releases? Like, what was the best formula for you, did you think?
Yeah, so I mean, again, in terms of all the magazines that were around, because again, that was when like Glamour used to come out, you know, you used to get Cosmo, you know, all of those like, you know, amazing magazines. We've still got great ones like Grazia and Vogue, but, you know, there's certainly not a lot left from the array. So again, when it came to the magazines, again, we just used to send it out to them. You know, we sent it out to them, like you said, with the press release we'd written, but we just literally sent out our products to all of the journalists. But at the time, social media was starting, and it was when we had bloggers, which were amazing because they were all organic. They were little organic journalists that would just write about things that they'd tried, things that they liked. Some were gifted, some weren't. They would just go in and buy it. Like I remember quite early on, you know, some big names went, "Oh, I just went and bought this and I love it." And they would just do an organic blog, and, you know, we didn't even send it to them. So we were really hot on that, on the bloggers. So we did send out a lot of product to bloggers. And then the third one was, again, the makeup artists. I think that if
Yeah.
you can get into the professional side of anything, and you've got professionals in that industry that are, backing your product and saying what they love about it and recommending it, then I think that adds another level onto it as well. So again, at the time we had no marketing budget,
Yeah.
so we couldn't afford to put an ad in Vogue or or Glamour or anything like that. But it was all organic. So we would send stuff out to people. We'd go, give us your honest opinion, give us your honest review. The bloggers loved us. The journalists did, because again, maybe they'd heard of it before and hadn't been able to get it. And because we did colors quite quickly afterwards as well, they're like, oh wow, this is innovative, because you've only ever been able to get clear paw balms before, but now we can finally mix our color with our care. And then the makeup artists, so they are the three areas that we hit, really. But again, it was quite organic, of just sending them out products.
Do you think organic marketing is still sort of feasible now? Because I think a lot of brands send things to influencers or they pay influencers. Like, where do you think organic marketing sort of stands in today?
I think it's definitely still got a place, because I think if people love it,
Yeah.
then they're going to talk about it, regardless. I understand that, again, a lot of sort of influencers, that this is their job now. They've left, say, university, or they've left a part-time job, and this is what they do, so that they need to be paid for it, which I totally understand. But also I think it's quite hard if you're paying somebody to say something about it today, and then tomorrow they talk about another brand, and the other day you've also got that aspect of it. So I think that is very difficult. Whereas a lot of our press, especially with celebrities, has been totally organic. When Alicia Keys said that we were her desert island must-have. When Victoria Beckham said we were her drugstore favorite.
That's
yeah. I mean, when Emma Watson did an interview for a magazine, and they said, "What's always in your handbag?" and she said, "My tube of Dr. PAWPAW." And that's because when she was on set in Harry Potter, the makeup artist was always using Dr. PAWPAW on them, because again, they had younger skin. They didn't need a lot of makeup. She wasn't going to put on this 24-hour long wear, matte lipstick. It was just very natural makeup. And so she kind of grew up with us then, because the makeup artists did. And that's why, we've met so many amazing makeup artists, and we gift them, and we thank them, because again, that's a lot of the time where we've got it. So I think you have to have organic marketing as well, because otherwise, if it's just paid, I don't know how believable that is for the audience or for the consumers.
Is the original balm still your hero product?
Do you know, it is, in terms of that it's been around a long time, but to be honest, some of our other products have overtaken it in certain areas. Yeah. So in the US, our overnight lip mask, yes, outsells our original. And I think that's because our overnight lip mask won best lip product in the Allure Beauty Awards. Yeah, and the Allure magazine in the US is, I guess, equivalent to our Vogue. I mean, I know they've got Vogue US, but it's like literally the next thing. So that's like the biggest beauty awards that you can win in America. So that outsells that. And in the Middle East, our red outsells our original, because everyone just has a red lip. Yeah, like, I mean, everywhere you go, everyone just has a red lip. So yes, our red outsells there. So yeah, definitely different places and different times.
It kind of differs between places. Okay, so with the success, obviously, of your balm, your your lip scrubs and everything, was there sort of a nervousness or fear moving into skincare? Because skincare is so saturated, right? So was there any fears that you had going into that market?
Oh yeah, 100%, because again, I'd actually had the idea and started testing before COVID. So it probably wouldn't have taken as long to come to market if COVID hadn't have happened.
Yeah.
So then by the time COVID had finished,
Yeah.
the beauty industry was such a different place
Yeah.
to what it was pre-COVID,
Yeah.
that we were like, oh my God. And there were so many other businesses that had really grown and done amazing throughout that time. So it made it even bigger and even harder, really. Well, even bigger and even more pressure,
Yeah.
I would say, to do it and to do it right. So yeah, 100%. There were so many sleepless nights. Are we doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Are we doing it at the right price? Are we doing the right products? And again, that's when we really did go to our professional consumer trials,
Yeah.
and especially because we did it in a blank tube as well, because we didn't want them to be shown, to be sold by the packaging or anything like that. And then when we got the feedback from that, it was like, oh no, okay, this is good. And especially because it was a beauty panelist, it was a panel of women that always test beauty products. So they're, used to it, and they know their stuff, I would say, what they like and what they don't like. And because we got so many amazing comments back from that, and from everything we wanted, from different skin types. Like we had this woman with really dry skin going, oh my God, I've always got really dry skin and I hate using a cleanser, but your cleanser is amazing. Then we had somebody who had quite sort of oily skin, again saying the same thing. I'd never use an oil cleanser because my skin's oily, but yours is amazing. And then again, somebody with more sort of red prone skin. I mean, not rosacea, but just sort of a redness. And again, even just talking about how our products did that, and we're like, oh, okay, no, this is good. Then these formulas are good, and they are hitting our target audience, which is every skin type as well. So, so that probably gave me the faith to really to take that step. Because to be honest, if that had a failed, I don't know if I would have launched those products as they were. I would have had to have really gone back and done some reformulation and then seen if it was worth it. So yes, lots of sleepless nights because it's a very scary time to do anything different then.
But the key ingredients in them is papaya, right?
Yes. So with the skincare, we wanted to do it a bit different to our balms. So I actually created the key ingredient that runs throughout. And we've trademarked that, and it's called papaya-laronic. Yeah, so it's a combination of the papaya extract and 8 different hyaluronic acids. Because again, whilst acid sounds scary, it's like everybody needs hyaluronic acid because it's just hydration, and everybody loses hydration through their skin throughout the day. So that's why I knew I wanted to create something different. So we were able to create that ingredient and call it papaya-laronic. And trademark it, so we know that nobody else can use it, and it's different to our balms. So a lot of people still use our balms on their faces, if they've got dry skin or sore skin or redness. But this is something that's a bit of a lighter formula that you can use both if you want, or one or the other if you choose.
Yeah, I mean, I love the skincare line, especially the retinol night cream, because I'm actually obsessed with retinol. I need to maybe calm down a little bit, but I'm always using the retinol. So, and I love the fact that it's in a tube because it makes it so easy to travel with. Did you have that in mind when you was launching the skincare?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Again, I wanted to do things differently. So that's why I put the nozzle on the end of all the tubes, because I wanted you to be able to apply it directly to your skin. Because a lot of the times, again, if you're, and again, this was tradition. I used to do this. If you put your finger in a tub and then put it into your hands and then put it on, well, actually, you've wasted most of it on your hands. So you can have really beautiful, soft, amazing hands. But you're not going to, you're not going to have as much product then on your face. So it was just these tips and tricks that I'd learned over the years that are like, actually, I want to apply it straight on. Therefore, I need a nozzle to put it straight on and then rub it in rather than rubbing it in my hands first.
It's just so nice that it can just fit into your travel sort of kit without. And it's so squishable, so it can just squeeze into any little nook that you have, which I just love so much. Okay, so I want to touch on a little bit about
building a brand in terms of like the support system around building a brand. So, you know, I've spoken to a lot of founders and people that are starting businesses, and it's very difficult to start a business and to continue with it. So how important is it to have sort of a network of people around you? So whether it's family or just people that are doing something similar to you, to kind of keep pushing you through when there are doubts in your mind of whether you should give up or not.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think again the landscape now is a lot different because I think more people are talking about it, and again having like podcasts like this are amazing. You know, to sort of be able to hear that. Whereas again, there wasn't a lot of talk about that. You know, sort of like definitely like 10 years ago as well, because I think everyone was trying to be all competitive and keep their books closed.
Yeah.
But now you can be really open. So I'm actually one of the members of an amazing group called Buy Women Built, which is a movement of female founders in particular. I mean, you've got married couples on there, you've got brother and sister teams on there, you've got two friends, two sisters, all, you name it. But it is ultimately that women are at the forefront, or certainly obviously part of the married couple or part of the brother and sister. And it really is just highlighting the different sort of, challenges that we do face as any entrepreneur does, but also then particularly sort of being female and still being judged and still not having, the same doors open for you, or certainly the same faith put in you, especially when it comes to investment, because looking for investment as a female founder, it's like less than 1% of the money goes to female funded brands, and for whatever reason that is. But you do have that support. So Sahar, the amazing woman who started the movement, Buy Women Built, is just all about like, you might not be able to afford to invest in somebody, but we can all buy off other women as well to show our support, literally through our buying method. So there's everyone on there, from food to drink to fashion to beauty, accessories, everything, you name it. So I think being part of those kind of movements really are amazing and supportive in a way that, whether you're just started out, there are brands in there that have literally just been going a year, just started out, and there are brands that have been going for even longer than we have been as well. And it's having that network that you can talk to. So whatever field you're in, I would look for those networks as well. If you want to export, then you should go to the DBT, because again, they have got loads of mentors in your area that can help you look at exporting, that can put you in the right direction if you need regulation on packaging and anything like that. So depending on what you're into or what you're wanting to get into, there are definitely networks out there that you can tap into and find. Because if you are doing it as a sole entrepreneur, then it can be difficult. And I'm lucky I've always had the support of Johnny, which again, I know a lot of people are like, but how do you survive? But I think at the start we did, because we just had the same goal,
And I think that's important anyways when starting a business, that with your business partner you have the same goal. Because I recently spoke to an entrepreneur who said that she equates the downfall of her business to the fact that she had the wrong business partner. So I think it's so important to make sure that whoever you have on board, whether it's a family member or friend or, whoever, that it's the right person and the goals align, because ultimately it can either lead to the success of the brand or the downfall. So definitely, I think that's very important. But I also wanted to find out, because I think in business you find out that a lot of companies or business owners, maybe sometimes they had to sell their home, they had to remortgage their house, they had to, seek out extra loans, and now they're in excessive debt for their business. What were you prepared not to lose for Dr. PAWPAW?
Yeah, because like I said, because we were a family, we weren't prepared to lose our house. So everything that, even though in the early years, to get the overdraft that we wanted, we did have to put up our house as collateral, but we knew that the loan was, say, only like, I think it was only, well, sorry, our overdraft, I think was only like, say, 50,000. So we knew that our house was worth, sort of more than that. So even if we had to sell our house to pay back that 50, we'd still be left with a good chunk of money to just buy a smaller house. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? Or like something. So I think becoming homeless and having a debt that was worth more than our house, we would never have gone into. But we started off small. But and again, because it was just self-funded by me and Johnny, I think that's why we went as slowly as we did, because we kind of made the money, then we launched new products. Then once we made that a success, then we launched it. So we kind of snowballed, as opposed to going, here's a whole 30 product range and let's hope for the best and let's see what works and what doesn't work. And I think in a lot of the mentoring that I've done with some other businesses, they're like, oh, I've got like, all these ideas. It's like, yeah, that's great. But if you're wanting to fund it yourselves and do it this way, then you need to start off small, I think, and also get a feel for the market, because yes, we've launched products and then taken them off the market and then, discontinued some and everything like that because they didn't work as well as what they did. And, you can't say that that's an issue, but, you can't take it personally. You just have to say, yeah, it just wasn't ready, but look at all the good ones, the things that are going good, and then, sort of focus more on that. So I definitely think starting off small, you definitely don't want to say lose a business and then lose everything as well. Make sure your debt is never more than what you own.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree, because I think the last thing you want to do, because so I guess sometimes you see businesses that have launched and they launch sort of big straight away, and you're like, oh my God, like what kind of pressures came with launching big straight away? I can only imagine, the amount of debt or the pressures from investors, if that's what you're wishing to come aboard in the first place. So yeah, I definitely agree with you in that sense. Launch small, start with one product that is everybody needs, and then expand as you go along. Okay, so as we sort of come into the close of the podcast, I really wanted to find out a little bit about the single biggest challenge that you would say you faced with Dr. PAWPAW, and how you sort of overcame that challenge.
I would definitely say money. It's like, it's trying to get the money in to do all the ideas that you have, or the things that you want to do. So we have just for the first time taken our first round of investment, because I think me and Johnny have realized that we've sort of done as much as we can with our own money, and reinvesting. And also because whilst we are sold on a global scale, we want to go, say, further, sort of quicker. So it's definitely money. So sort of looking at ways you can get it in. We know that we've only just taken our first round, but maybe if we could have done this sooner, could we have gone like, sort of quicker as well. So don't be afraid of that either, but just be really sort of clear as well on the type of partner that you want, and how much you want to give away as well. Because it is hard out there doing it on your own, especially I think now as well, when like you said, it's so busy out there. You really have to stand out, and you do need money to be able to stand out. So that has always been our biggest challenge, even today, because there's still more that I want to do. But it's like, well, no, we can't really afford to do that. Okay,
The ideas just get bigger and bigger, don't they?
It's the same problem from day one. It's the same problem now.
Oh, nice. Okay, so for anyone that is listening and wants to start a skincare brand and wants the success of Dr. PAWPAW, if there are three fundamental points that you would say, okay, make sure you have these points covered when starting a skincare line, what are the three fundamental points would you give them?
I think the first thing you need to do is you really need to do your research. Yes. So whatever market you're going into, say, for example, makeup, or, or like say foundation, or say you've got this amazing like eye product idea, do your research in that eye category, work out what is similar to your product and what is unique about your product, so that when you're pitching to buyers or to an investor, or even just sending out a press release to influencers or journalists, you know why people should buy your product rather than the competition. And you don't have to call out the competition. You don't have to say I'm better than Mac or I'm better than Estee. You say, we've got this product, it does X, Y, and Z, whereas the market currently offers you, Z, Y, and H. I don't know, so that why you're different. Also with that research is you have to get your price right. You have to be competitive in this market. If you're going for the premium products because you've got premium ingredients or you want premium packaging, then again, you really need to look at that premium bracket and say, okay, so if you want to charge, I don't know, say £50 for an eye product, what are you doing differently to the other people that are charging £50 for an eye product? And why would they, if I've got £50 to spend and I know this amazing brand that's worth that, why would I then come to you that's new? So you got to do that. Whereas again, if you're playing in sort of like the mass area, or any like the mass area, then again you have to think, okay, you will always have people that are higher than you and people that are lower than you, and so trying to position yourself in the middle again is a good way, because again you're not as expensive as this person and you're not as cheap as this person. You're kind of here, but then you've got what this person has and you do what that person doesn't. You really have to do that research on what are you offering that's different. Why would people buy your product at that price and not something else at that price? And then I would say you've got to stand out. Okay. You've got to stand out. Again, when we did our bright colored packaging, it's because nobody was doing it. Everybody was beautiful white, very clinical, very skincare, like what skincare it was. Even I remember when Mac came out, it was just black packaging. NARS was just black packaging. But again, now everyone's doing color, so it's like, okay, how do you stand out now in this colorful market? So just again, really taking that on board. So you've got to do your research. You've really got to do research, because if you're not doing anything better than the competition, then you don't really have a brand or a USP. It's what they call a USP, a unique selling point. If you don't have that, then you don't really have a brand.
So whether you're thinking about, like for instance, Dr. PAWPAW, your ingredients will stand out. So whether it's the ingredients or whether it's the bright packaging, so something has to be there for you to really push your product out there. But I do think there's sometimes that there are products that are stand out in terms of packaging, but they don't deliver in the product. That is always so disappointing when you get a product that's so amazing to look at. Because I get a lot of beauty products, and I naturally gravitate to a product that just looks beautiful and stunning. And then sometimes when it doesn't deliver, there's just that disappointment that comes with it, like, oh damn, I was really hoping this would be good. And then sometimes it's the product that actually aesthetically it doesn't look too good, but it does exactly what it says. So it is just like, I guess, a combination of all three.
I think I would definitely choose performance over packaging. Definitely, because if you've got the performance there, like you said, it does what it says, then at least people will repeat it. If you're just selling good packaging, then you just you may as well work for a packaging supplier or something like that, because it's not going to do it. And yes, you might get the first sale, like we said, because I love packaging. Don't get me wrong, I'm the biggest magpie there is. But I get that because I like the packaging, but I also like what it does. If I buy it once for the packaging and then I don't like what's inside, I won't buy it again.
Exactly.
And so you might get, like what they call like sort of like a false start, where everybody loves your packaging and everyone buys it, but then if it doesn't deliver, nobody's going to repeat buy it. So I would always choose performance over packaging. And then when you can afford, to maybe relaunch the packaging or have a fresh overview of your range, the people do that a lot of the time. You can start off sort of fairly sort of new in your packaging, and then once you can afford to come out with, like, even if it's an innovation on how the lipstick comes out, or now we've got these refillables, which again we never had. So the packaging of your lipstick is actually really beautiful because at least you can refill it rather than having to afford to buy that. There are loads of amazing brands that have done that. So you can work your way up to that, but I would definitely choose performance over packaging.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for all those pointers. I feel like I'm walking away with so much knowledge, and I hope the people listening are also walking away with so much knowledge. I'm so happy that we finally got to have this chat.
I know.
And hopefully I will see you around, and I'll be stalking you on Instagram as always.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on, Denny. I've always wanted to get on here and do this with you as well.
Yeah, thank you. And I will speak to you later.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Pretty Pains. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll see you next time for another exciting conversation.